This is Face the Nation, broadcasting live from the CNN IBN headquarters in New Delhi with Sagarika Ghosh.
Hi there, good evening. We're focusing tonight on a story of how the disabled continue to be publicly humiliated in so-called modern India. Yesterday, a woman who has cerebral palsy was asked to deplane from a SpiceJet flight. Reports say the pilot mistook the passenger for a mentally challenged patient. The woman, 42-year-old Jija Ghosh, in fact teaches at Kolkata's Indian Institute of Cerebral Palsy, and she was on her way to Goa to attend a conference on, ironically, mainstreaming disability. Jija Ghosh spoke to CNN IBN's Priyanka Gupta in Kolkata.
I got to know that it was the pilot who had the problem. I was humiliated. I was insulted. I want SpiceJet to take action. Either they should cause that captain or he gives a public apology to the media, to me and the entire disability sector.
Jija Ghosh saying she felt humiliated and insulted, and not only should SpiceJet give a public apology to her but to the entire community of disabled people. Now, SpiceJet has given a two-line apology for the incident. They have said, I quote, "We deeply apologize for the inconvenience caused to the passenger and express regret for the incident. The matter will be investigated and action will be taken." Joining us tonight, Javed Abidi, convener of the Disabled Rights Group, is joining us. Mary Barua, Director of Action for Autism, is joining us. Captain D.K. Sachan, he is a serving pilot. He is joining us. And we're hoping to be joined by Meetu Allur, founder and chairperson of ABLE, Disabled All People Together Adapt. She's supposed to join us from Goa. We'll see if we can get across our line to Meetu Allur. But for the moment, we have our guests in the studio. And the question we're discussing, cerebral palsy patient deplaned. Do the disabled continue to be discriminated against in so-called modern India? Let me start it off with you, Mary Barua. What has shocked people is not perhaps just the horrifying discrimination of asking the woman to deplane, but the manner in which it was done, in the rather insulting and humiliating manner in which, after being issued a boarding card, she was in the plane in front of all the passengers. The pilot and flight attendants say, "Get out, we think you're mentally challenged." I mean, this is not only discriminatory, it's horrifyingly insulting and humiliating.
Absolutely. I mean, she's got a boarding card. She's in the aircraft. She's seated. And then suddenly she sees a commotion around herself and she's told that she has to be unceremoniously deplaned. And I cannot even begin to imagine what Jija went through at that point. But I think this is not something that is happening the first time, and nor will this be the last time, I think, because this kind of thing keeps happening repeatedly. And sometimes you are deplaned from the aircraft itself, sometimes you're not given a boarding card, and for a range of reasons. And also the other thing that I wanted to just point out, that I just saw that the pilot thought that she was mentally challenged. But if she was somebody who was mentally challenged but perfectly capable, if she were, Jija is not. I mean, the pilot couldn't have picked on a more crazy, situation, because Jija is somebody who's well traveled, probably more widely traveled than the pilot himself. She's well educated, she's lived abroad on her own, and yet the pilot thought she was not capable. But supposing it was a person with a mental disability who was able to travel on her own or his own, was able to independently get by, what business did the pilot have to deplane?
If there is a mental disability, what business is it of the pilot?
Yes.
Is it an infringement of that person's
Of
rights?
course.
In fact, let's put that to Meetu Allur. Meetu Allur, it was on your invitation that Jija Ghosh was travelling to Goa for that conference where she was to speak on mainstreaming of the disabled. Now, tell us about Jija, because my research is telling me she's a postgraduate in social work and disability studies in Leeds. She's widely travelled. She's completely self-sufficient. She's a regular flyer. She is at the Indian Institute of Cerebral Palsy, and she is someone perfectly capable of looking after herself. So if this is happening to Jija Ghosh, then what must be happening to those who are not similarly placed and not similarly educated?
It's all a question of the government in inaction. I mean, how many times they've been told it's a mandate, it's a statute, it's legislation has been passed. Giger's 43 years old, double MA, University of Leeds. I know her from when she was very small. I recently saw her at Vigyan Bhavan, where she was giving a talk at a presidential award ceremony. And like, it's just amazing. You just don't know where you're going to start in this country, because you know that I've been working here for 40 years. And it's the biggest shame. It's a real black day in India today, you know. And especially when we are having 25 people from all over the world coming here to learn about inclusive education in a huge conference in Goa. And she was one of our participants where she was going to be speaking. I just am totally shocked. I just absolutely so depressed and upset about the whole thing, you know.
Let me put it to you, Captain D.K. Sachan. You've heard Mary Barua, you've heard Me Too Allure. Now, here is someone who is herself saying she's perfectly capable of flying. She then rang up her senior from the airport, and the senior said, yes, she's capable of flying, please let her travel. Still, the pilot, and you are a pilot, said, no, you have to get off my plane because I think you're mentally ill. Now, is this not a highly cruel act?
What I will say is not a cruel act. You are seeing the case as now when the whole thing has happened. What I will perceive when I am sitting in the cockpit, when I come to know, when my cabin crew comes and says, we have got a passenger who looks mentally unstable and she is without a attendant. As per my rule book and taking the consideration of all my passengers, safety of all passengers, I don't have much time to see who is the passenger, who he or she is. I will just, looking at just pure professional way, I will say, kindly board her out. I am not going by that fact ki what she is, what condition she is. I have not seen. What I have been communicated. I am sitting in the cockpit. I am preparing for the flight. I have got much more important things to do in the cockpit when I am preparing for the next leg. So this is one of the things which I come to know when I am sitting in the cockpit. I have got so much load.
It's a safety measure, it's a precautionary measure for other passengers. Javed Abdi, let me quote to you a statement by the US Airways, which also similarly deplaned a disabled passenger, which said that the airline requires that the passenger has to be physically able to assist himself or herself in the event of an emergency. If the passenger cannot, the airline requires that someone else travels with the passenger who can provide assistance in the event of an emergency. She was not escorted, so therefore in the event of an emergency, the airline took that decision.
No, first of all, even that email that you have got from some airline or someone is blatantly incorrect. I mean, I'm a frequent flyer. I'm a wheelchair user. I'm sitting here in front of you. I travel alone all the time, not just within India but internationally. I mean, I have not brought my passport with me right now, but practically every month I am out and I travel on my own. And no airline, or at least no decent airline, has ever told me that just because I am paraplegic, and obviously in the event of an emergency I will not be able to get up and run and save myself or save anyone else, but then the question is that in the event of an emergency, how many people will have the sanity and will
how many people are abled? Most people are disabled in an emergency.
So we should not allow the debate, because there is already a defense building up. And I'm actually very angry right now with you know, our good friend here who just because he's a pilot, so you know, so therefore he has to defend a completely undefendable act.
Okay, this was an undefendable act.
No, how can someone say that just because I am sitting in the cockpit, just because I am so important, and just because I have to save the world, and just because I have to fly the damn aircraft, so therefore I am going to humiliate you, and I am going to, and he used the word deboard. I am saying, and we have demanded that already yesterday on behalf of the disabled rights group, to say that it's time to deboard this pilot.
So you think the pilot should be sacked?
I would say that exemplary action should be taken against the pilot. For the last 48 hours an inquiry is going on. SpiceJet has a template. I have brought letters of apology which various airlines have given to various passengers from time to time. It's a template.
Right.
They just shamelessly press the button.
You know, the horrifying thing is, Captain Sachan, is that, you know, pilots make all concessions to VIPs.
Exactly.
Security considerations are not there when it comes to VIP passengers. Their planes are kept grounded on the runway for hours waiting for VIPs to board. But a self-sufficient woman with a disability whose success we should celebrate is humiliated by the pilot in front of the passengers. I mean, surely this is not worthy of a civilized society.
She has already checked in. She has already got a boarding card.
Right.
She is already in the aircraft, and even if there is a suspicion, all that the pilot had to do was to go out and talk to her, let her explain. I mean, we have heard her.
Or perhaps even to do it a little more
something.
discreetly, but you know, rather than doing it in this really humiliating manner.
May I say something?
Absolutely.
May I say something? Now, why are you targeting a pilot here itself? There have been numerous cases where a pilot, just by knowing even a smallest thing, like one passenger comes and declares that he is having a pain in ears. I know as a pilot, if I do a normal kind of descent, I may burst his eardrums.
What
So
are we
in that
talking
particular
about?
case,
I mean, what is the connection?
I'll just
What is it that you are trying to tell us?
I'm trying to tell that pilots are so concerned about each and every passenger. We are so concerned about each and everything. We have diverted a flight just by.
I wish you were that concerned.
No,
I really wish that you were that concerned.
Just we are concerned.
But,
Even the metro
but Captain Sachan, are people going to have to take a fitness test before they board
Exactly.
SpiceJet?
No, and it is
you know,
not
you may have
necessary.
old people, you may have infants, you may have people who are not fully fit and I mean, this can't be survival of the fittest.
Exactly, ma'am.
It can't be that you have to be in full possession of all your faculties and, you know, really fighting fit to board an aircraft.
No,
because
exactly.
otherwise you may suffer certain consequences. I mean, that's a reductio ad absurdum.
No, ma'am. Like for you can't say this ki pilots are insensitive. Pilots are very sensitive to each and every passenger, especially.
So we are not
to
saying
the
that
disabled.
all pilots
all
are
pilots
insensitive.
are not.
We are
Yes,
saying that this particular pilot
particular
is
pilot.
extremely
I will say-
insensitive,
Of course.
and we are getting the feeling that even you are insensitive. And
Yeah.
by the way, who is that pilot and who is that airline to decide, as she said, as to
That
who is
this-
fit and who is
yes.
not fit? We have no, hold on. We have paid the fare. Okay, we are not a freeloader.
Okay.
And you carry freeloaders, of course. Let's not talk about them. There is a guideline. All these issues have happened in the past.
Let me read out the Office of the Director General of Civil Aviation. These are DGCA guidelines. No airline shall refuse to engage in interline transactions for carriage of disabled persons or persons with reduced mobility or to continue interline transportation of such persons. Many persons with disabilities, I'm going to ask my producer to bring up this DGCA guideline. Many persons with disability do not require constant assistance for their activities. Therefore, if the passenger declares independence in feeding, communication with reasonable accommodation, toileting and personal needs, the airline shall not insist on the presence of an escort.
Absolutely correct.
May I add something? There are many instances of people with mental disabilities who have an escort with them, who have still been prevented, including SpiceJet. We know plenty of instances where the families had to just go back.
We had that instance
So
of the
it happens
of the boy with
routinely.
autism,
Yes,
Mary,
yes, of
where
course.
he was accompanied
Yeah.
by the parents.
He was being prevented.
And he was prevented.
No,
No,
And I know at
but
least
Javed,
three
let me just argue from Captain Sachan's point of view, because he's looking a little bit hunted right now. What if there is an incident on board? You know, what if there is an incident of a fall or somebody else being incapacitated? Then surely the airline would be liable. The airline would have to take responsibility.
No.
That is the reason why it's not a question of my opinion versus Captain Sachan's
Right.
opinion versus your opinion. A committee was formed. These guidelines that you're referring to resulted from a similar case, that of Rajiv Rajan, which was blown up just like this one. A committee was constituted by DGCA. I'm sure, because see, in every case there is an authority, and if we are talking about civil aviation, and if we are talking about the safety
Shouldn't
regulations,
airlines change?
Exactly.
Instead of forcing people off plane, shouldn't the airlines change? Shouldn't you make
DGCA
yourself
has
more
taken a
disabled
call.
friendly?
DGCA has come out with the
Ramps,
guidelines.
Indigo
Exactly.
Airlines, for example, has ramps.
That's
They
what-
have low boarding
That's
buses.
what I wanted to say. There has been adequate provisions made by the DGCA to facilitate the passengers who are handicapped or
so then
having
just follow
some
those
problem.
guidelines. You are in
They are
violation of
supposed to
those
be followed.
guidelines.
That's the reason I am surprised.
So then
why
be
in
honest
this particular
in saying
incident,
that the fellow goofed
Instead
up.
of
what
defending the
there
pilot.
has to be some communication. A pilot is a very responsible person, especially airline commander. They're very responsible.
Well,
They're
here
not made
pilots were
commanders.
drinking when they're flying. How can you say all pilots are responsible?
They have some exceptions
Mitu,
everywhere.
you wanted to come in?
Yeah, I just want to say this is completely apartheid. on the grounds of discrimination, grounds of disability. Because I heard the pilot say that she could be unstable and he was scared about other passengers. I mean, he absolutely is ridiculous. He should definitely, there should definitely be some punitive action against this, you know. He can't get away with it. I just had one participant who's come in for the international conference here, and she said that just next to her there was someone completely drunk, and he just didn't know what he was doing. They said, "Where's your luggage?" He said, "Upstairs." "And where are you going?" "I don't know." "We're going to throw you out." He said, "Okay, do what you like." And he just slumped over there. And a person like that is allowed to continue, and a person like Jija, who's actually represented us all over the world and was there in Vigyan Bhavan and talking at the president's ceremony, she is just, I mean, this is completely it's such an insult.
But what about Captain Sachan's point? But what about Captain Sachan's point that the pilot is the final authority? He, after all, is the commander of the flight, and he has to be accountable for safety for all passengers. And if he takes a decision, then that's his decision. Then that's the decision of the pilot.
But how do we know, Sagarika, that this captain is not mentally challenged, mentally unstable himself? How do we know that he is not discriminating, which he is at the moment? So what are we going to do to him? That's the main question, not to poor Jija.
Go ahead, very
quickly. He's not doing anything to anyone.
The pilot is not discriminating against anyone. He doesn't know exactly who is behind what kind of.
But he should know. How can he not know?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You have to. His pilot has got the major job is flying. Major job is flying, and the topmost priority is the security and the safety of each and every passenger and the aircraft. So in that particular case, whatever he's been told from the behind, and he's got very less time that time, he's told ki so and so passenger, we got a so and so passenger who looks mentally unstable. If he has been told, he will say, any pilot, he will say kindly,
that's what I don't like, Sagarika.
We have to check. The inquiry has to find out what actually happened.
Calling him
who is to decide who is mentally unstable and who is not? I mean, you could have a perfectly normal person who goes mad in the flight and threatens people. What happens then? We have to take a short break at this point. Let's come back. A woman with cerebral palsy was deplaned from a SpiceJet aircraft. We're asking, does discrimination and humiliation of the disabled continue in so-called progressing India? You know, the point is, Captain Sachan, what you were saying is that it's not the pilot's fault and it's not the airline's fault. Now, the point is, maybe this is a test case. As Javed is saying, as Mary is saying, as Mitu is saying, this is the time for the airlines perhaps to wake up and say, not everyone who's traveling in an aircraft has to be fighting fit. There are all kinds of people traveling in aircraft, and airlines need to adjust. Yeah, you want to come in?
If I can come in. I would like to shift the focus now from the pilot to the larger issue, and not just this airline, but you see,
other airlines.
If you look at the last 2 or 3 years, and I'm not looking at the last 10 years or 15 years, just the last 2 or 3 years, with absolute regularity, and almost all the cases have been quoted on your screen a little while ago. I was looking, starting with Rajiv Rajan, then to you know, a series of blind people, to the parents of the child with autism, and so on and so forth. The point, and very recently there was this case which had also blown up in a very big way, where Kingfisher and Vijay Mallya himself had to come on TV and apologize. Now the point is that every 3 months a case happens. And what I have questioned in my statement yesterday is that for every case which is highlighted, there are at least 10 to 15 cases which are not even reported, because these are all high profile people, well connected people, etc., and so on and so forth. Now we have to look at the system, we have to look at DGCA. Why are exemplary punishments not being meted out? Is an apology enough? The debate will now have to boil down to that. And one last point is that in spite of all the noise that has been generated between yesterday and today, the editorials written, we have this statement from the Ministry of Social Justice which says Mukul Vasnik would soon take up the matter with his civil aviation counterpart Ajit Singh. Would soon take up the matter. I am asking you a question, Sagarika, and you do this show every day. Had this been a farmer, had this been a woman, had this been a person from SC/ST, would this have been a vote bank? Had it been a vote bank, then would this have been the... So that is really the crux of the problem, that A, there is no political will, B, there are no guidelines, even when they are there. they have no teeth.
So what
Has
about what about
DGCA
the leaders of the disabled community themselves? Should they really be much more aggressive, much more proactive with the airlines? Because if this is happening time and time again, why don't you guys come out and really press your case?
See, we have to press our case, and what we have to say is, like Javed is saying, that something has to be done about the airlines, because just targeting the pilot alone is not enough, because it is not always the pilot who does something. The ground staff, the boarding staff, there is stuff happening all the time which does not get reported as well, particularly when it is to do with the community of developmental disabilities. It often doesn't get reported. So something has to be done for the airlines as a whole, and in the guidelines it says that the airlines have to train their staff, all the staff that handle the passengers, and there has to be follow-up training every 3 years. Do they do that at all? And this is something that I think that we really need to work on.
If DGCA was to make an inquiry, has any
Nobody's
of these
done the
airlines
training, I'm sure.
done the training? Has any sensitization been done of the ground personnel, of the check-in
Why
staff?
is not more sensitization done? And what is motivating the airlines to keep on doing this? Is it safety consideration? What is motivating the airlines?
Sagarika, I am asking you because, I mean, you are a serious channel. Please, I appeal to you. I appeal to you on television to say that please do not allow this case to end with the show tonight.
No, we're not.
Yes.
We're
No,
not
you
allowing the
have to take
case
it
to
up.
end. But you know, you have to press your case, because I just want to get you in here. What is the motivation of the airline? That's what I want to ask you. What is the motivation of the airline to keep on offloading disabled passengers?
There should not be any motivation for the airlines to
Why do
offload.
they do
But
it?
it happens with great regularity.
But why do they do
Why
it?
they're doing
Every
it?
2-3 months there is a reported case.
Is it safety that they're worried about? Is it passengers? What is the
bias.
reason?
It's a
Yeah.
stereotype.
Safety
It's
concern is
bias.
It's a stereotype.
It's a stereotype.
What
It's
is
a
safety?
bias.
It's sensitization that
There is
needs
a
to be
young
done.
adult traveling
You're not
with
able
two
to answer that
parents.
question,
No, what
Captain
I'll
Sachan. You
say-
don't know
no.
why airlines offload disabled passengers. You don't know
There
why.
is no reason to
Lack of
offload
understanding,
any disabled passengers.
insensitivity.
There is a very clear-cut guidelines given by DGCA. If the passenger
But then why do
is
they
got-
do it?
In the
Why do they
recent,
do
in the
it?
recent past, it
Why
happened
do
with
they
a
do it?
series of
Because
Sure, but why
airlines
they're doing
don't
it?
think it is important enough to carry out the sensitization programs. They don't
Okay,
think it's because the
Mitu
disability
Alluri wanted
community
to come
doesn't
in.
count.
I think I just want to say it's a general mindset, Sagarika. I think there should be clear guidelines from DGCA, because this is definitely a violation of human rights.
Should
and
this
it's a
pilot be
definite
sacked?
Can I ask-
case
Should this
of-
pilot be sacked as an exemplary punishment?
Obviously,
Should
the pilot has to be sacked. I mean, he's
Can I
not
ask
listened
Mitu
to the
Alluri a
mandate
question?
and law of the country. He's definitely got to be sacked, because I mean, why should he not listen to the governance and the law
Can I ask
of the
Mitu Alluri a
country?
question?
Very
Which
quickly.
he has not.
Mithudi, I have issued a statement yesterday. I am sure it must have reached you by now, where I have said, and Sagarika said a moment
No, I
ago, that
haven't
the
got
leaders of the disability movement will have to take greater responsibility. I am saying that you being the host to which this person was coming, and Dr. Sudha Kaul being the person where she works, both of you have been given Padma Shris in the recent past. I am appealing to you on behalf of the disabled rights group to come out strongly, because the government will not act otherwise.
Now, what are you going to do, Mitu Alluri?
What are you going to do
steps are you going
concretely
to
as a
do?
leader of the disability movement, as someone who represents people with cerebral palsy?
Yeah, very quickly. Yeah, go ahead, Mitu Alluri, very quickly.
Sagarika and Javed, I do not think this Padma Shri is worth anything. I mean, it's been ridiculed in the press, and we all know about it. I mean, any time I'm ready to give it up. What I want to say is that the DGCA has to give clear guidelines about what is
Okay, so
violation.
it's up to the DGCA to
human
give
rights.
clear
So
guidelines.
here,
Very quickly, we're out of time.
I
Mary
think action
Barua.
has to be taken against the airlines.
Okay, what
And
action
that
has to be taken? Should this, I mean, the pilot has to be sacked, and what should happen to the airline?
Exemplary punishment, 1 crore minimum, something which would hurt them
That will
and hurt them where it
financially.
hurts.
1
Yes.
crore minimum,
Minimum,
sack the pilot,
hurt them where it
and
hurts.
give a public apology.
Yes,
And
public
hurt-
apology.
camera.
And a
Because,
public
yeah.
apology. Very
the
quickly, you don't
airline's
agree?
business is over.
Okay, very quickly.
Airline cannot be making money. The airline's business is over in this country.
Right.
I mean, we cannot allow it to make money. Yeah.
Very
Here the pointing the whole blame on pilot is, I'll say, not correct, because in that situation where the pilot is told that kind of person.
But why is he told? How
He
can he
has to
take
be
a
told.
decision
He
like
has to
that?
be
He's
told.
No, we are
told.
taking the blame away from the pilot.
Can I say
Why
something?
does he not take an informed decision?
Can
Is
I
he a
say-
medical practitioner?
Can I
Is the
say
pilot
something?
a medical
why doesn't
practitioner?
he read
These
the
are all
law?
clear-cut
Yeah.
guidelines given by the DGCA
Yeah, exactly,
for how to
Sagarika.
carry
Why doesn't he read the
disabled
law?
person.
So where is DGCA? Why are
It
they
is
not
there.
on television? Where are the two ministers? Why are they not on television? Where is Mukul Vasnik?
And
What
where
is
are
his
the
stand on the issue?
ministers? And I
Where is
think
Ajit Singh? Why is he
it's
not
a
coming on
shame
television
that
and speaking? speaking up. Let them be made accountable. Where is the government?
Soon. I mean, how is the minister saying, I'll look at it very soon? How is the minister saying that? I mean, has he got a heart?
Has he got a heart? Well, unfortunately, we're completely out of time.
How is the minister saying? How is the minister saying, I'll look at it very soon?
Okay.
I mean, is he busy doing his political work? His
the elections going on all over the country.
Right, it's an irony. In fact, just today the news has come that in fact a former civil aviation minister had a whole plane chartered for his family to take him to a wedding, and on the same day the news has come that a woman with cerebral palsy was offloaded, publicly humiliated by a pilot who thought she simply wasn't mentally fit enough. What does that say for the nature of modern India today? We all need to rise up and challenge the stereotypes we live with about the disabled. Thanks very much indeed, Javed Abdi, Mary Barua, Captain DK Sachan, Mitu Alud from Goa. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. The question we're asking, does discrimination still persist against the disabled? Are they humiliated, and publicly so, in India today? 87, 83, in fact, I beg your pardon, are yes. Thanks for watching.